Little bumpy. Public border 100 kilometers from Prague and more than that from the nearest major German city in Dresden. It's the venue for the 2000 World Championships and for race 3 of the FIBT Viessmann Skeleton World Cup Series for 2014-15. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very bitter and windy Altenberg in Germany as we get ready for our 3rd race of the season and the first of the European leg. And the little huts on your right-hand side, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me is former Olympian Ben Sanford. Ben, what about this Altenberg track? It's got a really fearsome reputation.
It does. It's one of the most difficult tracks for skeleton in the world. It's a very technical track. It's very demanding. There's a lot of G-forces. It's a very long start here. You've got to run a very long way for a skeleton slider. You get onto the sled, you've got to just relax through corner 1. Corner 2 is kind of tricky, what you see coming up here. It's a little bit recessed, so you've got to steer the sled in there. It's really important to be relaxed on the sled at the top of the track and get ready for corner 4 here. Corner 4 is probably one of the most difficult corners in the world for skeleton. You just can't get through there nicely. It's just messy. Through here, through the labyrinth, you have to be nice and smooth, keep the sled running. Coming into corner 9 here. 9's going to set you up for the long straight down into Kreisel, so it's important to be smooth through there. And then Kreisel. Kreisel's difficult. It's a 360-degree corner, a lot of pressure, and you can hurt yourself on the exit if you get it wrong. Through here, it's a flat part of the track, so you want to carry that speed that you've hopefully got from Kreisel. 14 is going to set you up for the bottom. There's a little uphill there, come over the crest and into 15, and then the rest of the track, you're just sliding up into the finish.
2 or 3 sections, including the Kreisel that goes uphill in the middle, going uphill on this track. But the speeds are enough that you almost don't notice it. Sophia Griebel of Germany holds the track record. Laura Dees of Great Britain is the start record holder here. And she, in fact, will be the first off at the top of the hill. Well, heavy overnight rain after a little bit of snow during the training week means that every day the conditions have been different. And today, Ben, the ice is probably as warm as it's ever been. So that's another thing for the athletes to try and get used to.
Yeah, it's interesting here in Altenberg. The weather conditions do change a lot, and so as you said, we've had a bit of snow during the week and it's been a lot colder, and so today we come to the race and the weather conditions are a little bit different. It's going to be interesting to see if the track slows down at all during the first and the second heats, so that depends on what they're doing with refrigeration on the track, and we'll find out once the sliders start to slide.
Olympic champion Lizzie Arnold there in the Great Britain jacket, buttoned up against the cold. Lots of black ice out there in the car park where the athletes are warming up this morning. There you go, exactly. Marina Giardoni showing you exactly what the problems can be. I mean, this track has a reputation for injuring athletes. You don't want to hurt yourself before the start. So in our field of 22, Laura Dees will be first off, and our Olympic champion will be just outside the top 10. Lizzie Arnold goes off 12th. Our World Cup leader is not Lizzie Arnold, who won the first race of the season. Our World Cup leader, Elizabeth Vacher of Canada, goes off 6th. And this is her first ever trip to Altenberg. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. On the left-hand side, you can see the big towers used for starting the luge. It's a running start for the skeleton as we get ready to start the European season. First up, from Wrexham in Clwyd, Laura Dees, 6th in the World Cup standings, the 26-year-old former eventer.
Go! Go, 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 go!
5:45 the start record, 5:50 is not a bad getaway and a good clean load, Ben. The grooves are cut fresh every morning, and so that helps you get straight down the ice.
Yeah, that's a very good start from Laura. She's a very fast athlete, and that's a good start. She's got through corner 4 there cleanly, and now we see her sliding through the labyrinth, and so far it's looking pretty good.
First ever World Cup medal for Laura came in Calgary, Alberta in Canada last time out, just before the Christmas break. What's she doing there with the feet as she gets into the Kreisel?
Yeah, she's steering there on the long straight between 9 and Kreisel, and by using her toes, she's going to be losing a bit of time there. She's not on the perfect line, and so she's having to work a little bit hard there to keep the line that she wants. Here we see her coming around 14 and up into 15, and again using her toes, so maybe not the most optimal steering for the first time.
108 kilometers an hour, 67 miles an hour as she comes down to the final part of the course, and a 60.44. That's pretty much where they were in training. So the last day of training, the fastest couple of runs were both from German athletes. Germans have not been beaten on this track since 2006.
Talks
about how long a start it is. That favours maybe the power athletes more?
Yeah, it does. It's a long start, and most skeleton starts aren't that long or that flat, and so you really have to be able to push the sled right out and maintain your top speed for a little bit longer than you normally do. Laura's a fantastic athlete and very fast at the start. That's why she has the track record here, so hopefully for her that'll play in her advantage to have a slightly longer track so she can get some more speed at the start.
Start draw number one is always a little bit of a nervy thing to have. Next up is Savannah Grable of the USA, 26-year-old graduate student from Denver, Pennsylvania. Looks like she got bumped a little as she came out of the groove and drifted off into the sidewall.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate way to start the first run down the track today. The groove just sort of pushed her into the left wall, and there's not really a whole lot of things that you can do to prevent that when you're out of the groove.
Really strong start to a season, top 6 finish in Lake Placid on home ice. It was nice to get a good result under your belt early.
Yeah, struggling a little bit there in the straight as well, just coming off corner 9 and waving a lot in Kreisel. See what her exit's like. Yeah, touches on the exit of Kreisel.
Well, a little quicker than Laura Dees. The gap, half a second though, behind the British girl. She's using her legs a lot, Ben, on the straight to kind of stabilise her.
Yeah, she is. That's what happens when you're not in an ideal position on the track. You're trying to steer on the straights, and ideally you want to steer in the corners and let the sled run on the straights, and so it's a little bit harder to get the sled where you want it in the straights, so she's having to use her feet to maneuver the sled into the position she wants for the next corner.
You have to use the whole body here to steer the sledge. On the left in the green jacket, Matthias Benesch, former bobsled driver who now runs the track here at Altenberg. Corner 1's named after him, the easiest corner on the track, and he managed to crash a bobsleigh out of it.
Here we see Kreisel, and Kreisel's one of the big corners that you really have to get right on this track, and there's a balance in Kreisel that you have to strike between waving too much and steering too much, and so you want to get a balance where you're not steering enough but you're also not waving too much, and you see her there getting quite a bit of height and quite close to the roof.
Annette Prediger of Canada works in the A&E department in Calgary in Canada. She worked every day bar one in the Christmas break instead of having 2 weeks off, and also broke her right thumb loading in the race in Calgary, so that's not going to help loading here. Yeah, grimace from you there, Ben.
Yeah, it's not good to have a broken bone when you're doing skeleton. It's a pretty demanding sport on the body, and yeah, broken bones aren't a good thing, especially coming to Altenberg straight after Christmas. Well, Annette's a great driver, and so she's not going to rely too much on her start here, but hopefully make up the time as she steers her way down the track.
Well, is this still one of those tracks where you can make up time lost at the start by good driving?
Yeah, you can always make up time by good driving, but ideally you do have a good start and a good equipment and you're a good driver. If you have those 3 things, then you're going to have an advantage over people that don't have those 3 things.
Comfortably the best speeds we've seen so far in and out of the Kreisel. The gap will come down. She was 4900ths behind Laura Dees, down to 32, but really good long runs down the straight. And that is right down.
Yeah, it's going to be close here at the end.
1:10.6 is very quick. That's 68.5 miles an hour, and she's 100th in front. Well, you could see that her sled was going much straighter down the straights. Now, is that drive, or is that the way she set it up to be more controllable?
It's probably a combination of both, or it could be a combination of both. At the moment, I'd probably say it's her driving. She's managed to get the lines that she wanted out of the corners, and so that's going to allow her to let it flow a little bit more in the straights. But to get those lines in the corner, she might have set her sled up with sharper runners or less rock or bend in the blade, so she has more control in the corners. We can't really tell that from here, though.
Yeah. It's a bit of a black art. This is Janine Flock of Austria, 25-year-old from Hall im Tirol, just outside the track at Eagles. And she's sliding on a Bromley sled, one of a number in the field, including our World Cup leader. Really had a standout season last year, really came to maturity as an all-round athlete, and she has proved that not to be a flash in the pan this year with a couple of very good results in North America.
That's a pretty good start from Janine. She'll be happy with that, I think. Just have to be nice and relaxed. She's been sliding really well this season, again after last season. She'll have to get corner 4 right here, though.
Scorpion kick, the leg comes up as she flies down into the wall on the exit of 4. But look at the lead she's got already. 4,600s up on Lynette Prediger.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that exit of 4 is going to cost her any time down through this middle section of the track. She looks really good here in Kreisel, though. She's been good in Kreisel all week.
That is the lowest speed we've seen into Kreisel, though. 103.5, a little better on the exit, so she kept the speed well.
Yeah, but she's losing time, only 1,300s up. Bit of a touch coming out of 14, and that's going to cost her through the bottom part of the track.
So 100th behind, you can hear scraping on the ice. That'll be the chin piece of that chrome helmet. 2,500s back, and pretty much all below the Kreisel. There's her coach Martin Rettel, former top Austrian male slider.
Yeah, he doesn't look all that happy. I think they'll have some things to work on for the second run.
Well, the exit of Omega was untidy, but below the Kreisel it got a little worse. This is quite a hit, though.
It is. That is quite a hit. That's impressive that she's been able to stay on. What you can't see there is the shot about 4 meters after that, where her leg actually will be flipping right over and probably touching the ice on the other side. Yeah.
The G-forces make you bend in ways that you don't think possible. She's looking very thoughtful as she comes up the track. Well, next up is the Swiss Marina Giardoni. Marina, 27-year-old former bobsleigh brakewoman. In fact, she was a junior world champion in Swiss bobsledding as a brakewoman. And that's that mass and that speed that has been so attractive and so useful for her as a skeleton athlete now.
Yeah, she's got a fantastic start, one of the fastest starters in the world, and
new start record goes to prove it.
That's an amazing start.
A couple of hundreds faster than Laura Dees. And Laura's record stretches back to December 2013. That wasn't a World Cup race, that was at a Intercontinental Cup race.
A little bit of a skid coming out of 4, but she held a good line going into 5, so that should keep her the speed that she's got from the start, you know, carrying on down the track and nice and smooth between 9 and 10, and hopefully she steers Kreisel well here and carries some more speed through the bottom of the track.
Second quickest into the Kreisel. She's still got an 0.8 of a second lead. Look at this, 106.4. That's good speed on the exit. That's the fastest we've seen exiting the Kreisel. And in the green all the way slide. Come on, Mickey Grumberger. Let's see a smile. That's as close to a smile as you get from Mickey. 7,300s up. That's a very, very impressive run from Marina Giardoni.
Yeah, that's a great start and a great run, and the time shows at the bottom of the track.
Well, that wasn't all about the start at all, but a new start record.
She's such a compact runner, so fast and so strong at the start, and she's got great turnover. Gets the sled over the crest and gets that momentum going downhill, and that's the start record. A little bit of a problem coming out of 14 there. Not enough height near the end of the corner, and so comes off a bit early and hits that left wall. It doesn't look too bad, that hit, but it's actually quite sore.
Marion Thies on the right-hand side there in the yellow jacket. Last woman to win on this track 2 years ago in the World Cup. There's Laura Dees on the left. And waiting for our World Cup leader. Last 2 races, rookie Elizabeth Arche has started draw number 1 and been nervous about that. She didn't have that today. She's nervous instead about wearing the yellow jersey of the World Cup leader. This is her first ever competition run at Altenberg.
Elizabeth also has a great start, and that's a good start here in Altenberg, 5:59.
Silver behind Olympic champion Elizabeth Yarnold in Lake Placid, the season opener. She won in Calgary. Big flop off the end of four.
Yeah, that's going to lose her some time as she comes through this middle section of the track. You really need a clean exit from 4, and that's going to slow her down a lot through here.
Well, really learning this track. This is her 9th trip ever down the ice here, so she's still trying to find out its nuances, and that shows she's working hard.
Yeah, she is working hard, and she's had a bit of trouble in 4 and now a bit of trouble coming out of Kreisel, and it's going to cost you some time down the track. It's a difficult track here, and there's a lot to learn, and it's difficult to come here for a World Cup and try and get it right that first week.
17th, 18th in training on Thursday. If she could get into the top 10 here, they would very happily walk away from Altenberg with that. Her regular coach Richard Bromley back home watching from Sheffield. He's one of the 2 Bromley athletes in the field. There's Charles, another former skeleton athlete who's helping with the coaching here in Europe as well.
Really high on the exit of 4, and she's just coming down there, and the camera angle is just not quite wide enough to see her sort of probably on her side as she goes through the rest of 5.
You see they're going upside down there, you know, defying gravity in the Kreisel, but a big skid on the way out. She's not going to look happy, I think, until she sees Altenberg in her rearview mirror. This is a very tough track to learn.
Yeah, and coming here for a World Cup isn't necessarily the most ideal environment to learn in.
From Great Britain, Rose McGrandle, 27-year-old, originally from Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire, 5th in the World Cup rankings after 2 good weekends in Lake Placid and Calgary before Christmas.
Rose has been very fast here this week in training, so it's going to be really interesting to see how she does on the race today.
5:64 getaway.
Looks nice and relaxed on the sled coming into corner 3. The last few athletes have struggled here, so it'll be 3rd high, but it seems like a clean line into 5.
She didn't do the face plant that we saw from our World Cup leader Elizabeth Barche, so that's the first thing sorted out. A second behind Marina Giardoni of Switzerland, our current leader. Great speed into the Kreisel.
Yeah, all week Rose has been really good with the Kreisel. Maybe not so good there with the hit on the exit.
Huge speed on the exit though. Even Giardoni not as fast as that. The gap's down to 0.12 of a second. Oh, stretched right back out again. But 109.1 at the bottom is good. Drifts out to 26 hundredths behind. And that leaves her in 2nd place. So Marina Giardoni leads by 29 hundredths from Rose McGrandle. 3rd, Lynette Prediger, 44 hundredths back.
Yeah, it looks like Rose just sort of lost it near the bottom of the track. Like coming out of Kreisel would have cost her some time with that touch there. Doesn't give you a good line going into the next corner, and then you'll see that hit there will affect her when she comes around this corner and into 12. See her leg just shoot up to the left there, and then she'll get an early entrance into corner 13. So looks like she was gaining time and then losing time.
The ice will feel very different today, as it has every day this week. Latvian and Russian coaches conferring as we wait for our next athlete. We've now got 3 Germans running together. Top 10 in the world rankings go into a random draw. First of our German girls is 22-year-old Tina Hermann. Claimed her first ever World Cup medal in Calgary, where she edged Sophia Griebel out of the bronze.
The Germans are really going to want some medals here.
The last woman to win here was Maya Pedersen, who was not German, and that was back in 2006. That's a long time ago.
It's a very nice line around 3-4 into 5. Really smooth through the labyrinth.
5:81 start. She was 4 tenths behind at the start. Now she's down to only a tenth behind. 1:09.7. Fantastic speed.
Nice looking Kreisel here. Great exit. Just closing that gap.
Top speed on the exit of the Kreisel. She's in the lead. And again, sensational speed at the bottom. Everybody else has been 1:07, 1:08. And that is a fantastic run from Tina Hermann. Jens Müller looking relatively happy with that.
Haven't seen Jens so far this season.
Yeah.
I think he's had some health trouble and now he's maybe come back to do a bit of coaching on the German tracks.
Yep.
That's a great run.
That was a really nice looking run. Well, not off the greatest start either. 5:81, 4 tenths slower than Marina Giardoni. You can see her working really hard as she got popped out of the groove there.
Yeah, that right groove is giving people problems, and I think her coaches must have told her that, because you can see just as she's coming out of the groove, she already knows it's going to send her to the left, and so she's got her foot down and her head pointing in the other direction. She's tapping that toe to keep her going straight, keep her off the wall.
3 wins here in the last 5 races for Anja Huber-Selbach. 2008, she was the world champion. 2009, she won the World Cup race. 2012, she won the last World Cup race, bar one, which was won by Marianne Thies. So the Germans have got a very strong record here.
Anja's a 2008 world champion on this track.
Yep. 5:68 getaway, 5th quickest. Now, the Germans have done a lot of reassessment and re-ranking of their athletes after Sochi's disappointments, predominantly based on start draw. And in fact, Germany's skeleton champion was a forerunner here because she doesn't start as fast as the other girls.
Yeah, it's an interesting system, and it's going to be interesting over the next few years to see how this plays out and what sort of results they get. So I think to justify what's happening in the program, they really need some good results on the German tracks, and it'll be good for them to start well here, and they'll be obviously aiming for the World Championships in Winterberg.
Well, in the late noughties, Anja Huber was the fastest starter in the field. Those days are now gone, but she's got so much more experience. 1:10.4, great speed on the exit as well. Not enough to challenge Tina Hermann. And she is in 3rd place behind Marina Giardoni by just 0.02 of a second. So we might see an all-German podium again. It's been a few years since we've had one. At the moment, we've got 3 German speakers in the top 3 at least.
That was a pretty nice run from Anja, but maybe just a few little things which have cost her the time down the bottom.
Und wir warten auf die 3. Deutsche im Bunde, auf Sophia Griebel, die momentan 4. in der
Anja got married during the summer break. Seemed to have been too disappointed with that run. Still some gap away to Tina Hermann, the race leader, though. Here's our 3rd girl. She did take a medal in Lake Placid, got eased out of bronze in Calgary. So again, good start to the season for 25-year-old Sophia Griebel.
Sophia has the track record here, so I'm expecting a really nice run here from Sophia.
5:68, same speed at the start as Anja Huber-Selbach.
Looking really nice around 4. Nice line through 5 into 6. Important to get that exit of 6 right so you don't touch before 7. She's done all of that. Carry that speed around 9 and into Kreisel here. A little bit of a touch as he tries to maintain that early line into Kreisel. Really flat around the end of Kreisel too.
1:07, decent speed on the exit, not as quick as Tina Hermann. The gap will grow.
Nice line out of 14, but she's losing a little bit of time. Doesn't have the same speed as Tina.
Down to 3rd place behind Marina Giardoni. Will she finish in front of her? She does. Find something at the bottom that Marina couldn't. 1/4 of a second behind Tina Hermann. It is Germany 1-2 here in Altenberg. That might not come as a massive surprise to regular fans of the sport. This tends to be a track, Ben, that certainly at lower levels when they're learning Europa Cup and the Intercontinental Cup, athletes and coaches try and avoid a little.
Yeah, it has a bit of a reputation, this track. There's a lot of places on this track which can hurt you, and corner 4 and Exeter Kreisel, I've seen some really nasty crashes over the years in those corners, and so people are a little bit afraid sometimes of this track. I think it's a wonderful track, and most of the athletes that slide here normally end up loving it. It's an interesting track to be able to slide on.
Tina Hermann of Germany is our race leader by a quarter second from teammate Sophia Griebel. Only Marina Giordani of Switzerland is breaking up the German domination of the top 3 at the moment. So, Ben, it's a busy day for the schools here as well. There's going to be over 2,000 school kids from local primary schools coming out. Nice day on Friday to do it, without any rain at least.
Yeah, and they have a signature session down at Junior Start, so they're asking athletes that aren't obviously racing today, or officials, to go down there and sign the Altenberg posters and hand the posters out to the kids. And it's great to see some local support here in Altenberg, and have some people come to the track. It's an early morning on Friday, so it's not maybe the most ideal time for spectators.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's working, obviously, especially after the Christmas break, but it's always nice to get the kids out. And it's a small town, Altenberg, and this is quite a big part of it. I mean, this track originally was a secret in the DDR in East Germany. Nobody knew outside of a small number of German Federation members that this track even existed.
Yeah, and I've listened to some of the old sliders and how they came here in the early 90s, and they had go through these areas of Germany that had never been allowed in before, and it was a secret. And I guess that sort of is part of the mystique about this track. It was hidden behind the Iron Curtain and no one really knew about it, and now we have this track, and it's on the circuit every year, and it's still got a bit of a reputation that seems to flow over from that time of being a little bit mysterious and scary.
Well, the Germans figured out that they'd build a track that had the hardest combination of corners taken from all the other tracks that existed, and if their sliders could run here, then they could handle anything else. And as a result, they've built, well, as we like to call it, the track too tough to tame. It is a very, very difficult driver's track. Altenberg in Germany, the start area on a windy Friday morning for the third race in the Skeleton World Cup for women. 10 of our 22 sliders down. 11th starter getting away very quickly is Annie O'Shea from Port Jefferson Station, New York. Good start from her, 5:74.
It's really important these days to have a competitive start, and Annie's been a fast starter for years now, and that's a good start from her.
Our current leader is Tina Hermann of Germany. A smoking first run to leave everybody trailing behind her.
Annie was just a little bit high on the exit of 4 there, so she might have lost a little bit of time. It's going to show through this part of the track. Struggling a little bit there to get it early into Kreisel. Very low on that first pressure. So very low line in Kreisel.
Well, not great speed going in, and that's part of it. She was only 106 kilometers an hour. We've seen up to 108, 109 there.
Yeah, sled just skidding there a little bit as she struggles to get it across into 15 nice and early.
Well, now, if you work out that you've not quite got the setup that you need, how much can you do to the sled before the second heat?
The jury who's running the race, they'll open the Parc Fermé, which is the area where the sleds are going to be, and you can walk into the Parc Fermé for, I think it's 10 minutes, and you can work on your sled to change the amount of bend that you have in the runners. So that's going to change how much of the runner is actually contacting the ice. In theory, the more runner that's contacting the ice, the more control you're going to have. So if you don't have the control, you can wind the rock down, and if you want less control, you can wind it up.
It's a fine balance. You can see as you look at the runners, they're not completely flat. They are like a rocking chair. Less bow means less control, but less friction as well on colder ice. So, yeah, you've got a... It's always a bit riding a bucking bronco, isn't it?
It is, and you want to be right on that boundary line between having control and not having control. That's where you're going to get the most speed and the most benefit for what you're doing.
Well, here's our Olympic champion, Lizzie Yarnell from Great Britain. Girl from Sevenoaks in Kent, now lives in Bath. Her landlord is another Olympic skeleton champion, Amy Williams. She took gold in her only World Cup race so far this season in Lake Placid, the season opener.
That's a good start from Lizzie. Lizzie's got such good form on the sled. It's really relaxed, nice position. That's a nice line round 4. She just makes it look easy, and she really carries the speed down the track.
How much of skeleton can you teach, and how much is instinct?
That's a difficult thing to answer, really. I'd probably say you can teach most of it. But I think to be interested in skeleton, there has to be, you know, a part of you that you know is going to like this sort of thing. It's a very unique sport.
300s in the lead, 1:11.6. This is going to be very close. Tina Hermann was just a whisker quicker, and she's 200s behind, but we've got a race on our hands. I wouldn't want to try and guess the last time. In fact, I'm not sure a British girl has ever won in Altenberg in World Cup. Shelley Rudman took the bronze medal here in 2012.
I wasn't really sure how Lizzie was going to go in the first run today. She hasn't been as quick as I thought she might have been in training, and so yeah, she's really pulled it out on race day and put down a really good run here.
The smile is back. Well, she didn't compete in Calgary. She went home to Glasgow for the BBC Sports Personality of the Year show and then didn't return to Calgary. She was very dizzy after her runs in Lake Placid, and I think perhaps very wisely decided that a week at home would be better than a week on the ice. Now here is Austria's Karina Meyer, youngest athlete in the field, and 2 days ago she turned the ancient age of 19. Ben, we're sitting here with a little bit of grey in the hair, you and a lot me. 19 is a long while ago, but I mean, it shows the Austrians are grabbing these athletes where they need to, very young.
Yeah, the Austrians for a few years now have had a really good youth program and been bringing athletes into the sport at a really young age. A bit of a problem coming out of corner 2 there, and that's going to cost her a lot of time. I was talking to her on her birthday, and she was complaining about how old she was feeling. And I just didn't understand at all.
Well, she was 1400s behind at the start, but she, as well as being the youngest, is also one of the slightest athletes, so she's getting a decent amount of speed, but not much momentum.
Yeah, and especially with the trouble that she had coming out of corner 2, that's going to stop the sort of momentum at the top of the track straight away, and it's going to make it hard for you to build speed as you go down, and again, just hitting a few walls here on the lower section of the track, and that's not going to help her time.
Well, as well as the friction of hitting the wall, she's going sideways down the track, and zigging and zagging means it's, you know, she's adding distance to the run. Holds her head in her hands a little bit there. 1.7 seconds off the lead. That might leave her in a little bit of trouble trying to make the second heat. Only 20 of our 22 athletes will go through, so she's got to make it inside the top 20.
Yeah, and you see her coming out of corner 9 here, and you really want to be down, as we're looking at the screen, on the right-hand side of this straight. She crosses over, she hits on what's going to be her right-hand side, and that's going to bounce her back to the other side. Coming out of corner 14 here again, just not enough height near the end of the corner, and it just throws her straight into the left wall, which bounces her over to the right wall.
More hits than Elvis on the way down. She was 19 2 days ago. Elvis would have been 80 yesterday.
I can't believe you know that.
I know these things. Svetlana Vassilieva of Russia. Well, a little bit of a disappointing World Cup campaign for her so far. Coach Willi Schneider will be hoping for a little more. The former standout German athlete builds all the sleds and coaches the Russian skeleton team. Willi Schneider must have been old when you started in skeleton then.
Yeah, he was. I started 12 years ago, and I can remember Willie being part of the German team in my first season. And I think he finished after my first season, but yeah, already he looked kind of old there.
He's now gone into that period where he's not aging at all. Out of the lead then, she drops a fraction. A good top part of the track for Vassilieva.
That's quite a nice line around corner 9. Middle down the straight, just working a little bit to get it earlier into Kreisel. Nice exit.
Really see her working hard with her body, using all head, shoulders, knees, but not yet the toes.
Nice line out of 14 coming into 15, looking really smooth.
Decent speed at the bottom as well. She's in 7th place at the moment and comes across the line just in front of Lynette Prediger and behind Rose McGrandle of Great Britain. So she's in 7th spot. 60.21, that might be the fastest run she's had, yeah. 60.26 was her last run in training. So incrementally getting a little faster.
Willi Schneider, the coach, didn't look too happy with the run, but I wonder if the athlete's going to be happy.
Yeah, well, she was ahead of leader Tina Hermann from the start. Lots of fans watching the action from the start and from the finish area. Wonder how many of those will end up finding their way to the sliding club here. World Cup debut now for Canada's Jane Channel, 27-year-old from North Vancouver, British Columbia originally, now based in Calgary, Alberta, where Canada Olympic Park is. She's a former track and field athlete, as so many are. There lots getting drawn in from sprinting because the speed at the start is so vital.
It's a great moment being able to compete in your first World Cup as an athlete. Like, you've trained for a long time to get there, and to finally make it onto the World Cup and compete it's a great feeling.
It's a good news, bad news. Hey, Jane, it's your first World Cup. Hooray! It's an Altenberg. Oh, really?
That's a great start from Janine. That's a great start from Janine, though.
Yeah, 5:53 leaves her 2800s in the lead over Tina Hermann, and that means that she's got a great opportunity to hold on to that advantage. 800s is the gap as she comes out the Kreisel and down the straight. She's a little behind, into the Kreisel rather. 106 kilometers an hour is just a fraction slower. Drifting away below the Kreisel, 107 kilometers an hour at the bottom. The fastest we've seen there is over 110 Ks. Still with your chin on the ice, 67 miles an hour is plenty fast.
Yeah, that's a good first run down the track for her first World Cup.
And again, she will have slid in North America's Cup as a junior and Intercontinental Cup, the second tier of sliding. May well not have come to Altenberg before.
Just working in the straight there out of 9, like you've seen a lot of athletes so far. Just getting pushed across into that right wall and using her toe to try and prevent that hit.
See the black shoe goo on the toes. That serves two purposes. One, to give you a little bit more stick to the ice, but also to stop the toe of your expensive Adidas spikes rubbing away.
Yeah, very expensive shoes those are. You really don't want to burn through too many of them.
They're not standard track spikes, as you'll see. They've got hundreds of little needle spikes. Joske Leconte in the Netherlands, being helped by Ander Mirambel, who we'll see tomorrow morning racing in the men's skeleton encounter. Ben Sanford, you'll be coaching tomorrow morning as well.
Yeah, I will be. Reese from New Zealand in his first World Cup.
So anybody in Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire, RAF Bryce Norton, one of your own will be sliding tomorrow, 8 a.m.
Joske does well there around corner 4. Looking quite smooth on the sled. Nice line through the labyrinth and into 9.
Part of what is now a tiny Dutch team. She's the only skeleton athlete in World Cup, and there is no Dutch bobsleigh presence. Edwin van Kalker had a Europa Cup race before Christmas and announced that would be his last ever slide, so he won't be coming back to World Cup bobsleigh.
Joskel's doing a lot of steering around Kreisel, probably too much to have a good speed in the bottom of the track.
13th at the line, no, 14th, just behind Karina Meyer of Austria, and 200s in front of Annie O'Shea of the USA. Again, I wouldn't mind betting that Joskel's probably only raced here a couple of times in her career as well.
Yeah, Joskel's been sliding for quite a while, but maybe hasn't been to Altenberg so many times. I think her home track would be Winterberg, which is the closest track to the Netherlands. And I think she's aiming for a good result at the World Champs this season in Winterberg.
Yeah, Winterberg, laughingly referred to as being in the Dutch Alps. It's so close. The hills there are often full of Dutch holiday makers, and the track is resplendent in orange very frequently as well. So I'm sure she'll be looking for a lot of home support. Well, 16 athletes down of our 22. Only 4 places remain in the race. Mickey Grunberger checking his watch there. And there you can see those spikes. Over 300 little 2mm spikes.
Go!
30-year-old Takako Omukai from Nagano in Japan, a World Cup rookie, and again will be very unfamiliar with this Altenberg track.
And again, you see another athlete struggling with that right groove, just pushing them over into the left wall. So she's having to work hard straight away as soon as she's on the slab. A little bit wayward there between 2 and 3, and that's going to cost her time down through this middle section of the track. A little bit high on the end of 4 as well.
Seems silly to say it, but sometimes the ice looks a lot skiddier for athletes than for others.
Yeah, it's right. And today, with a little bit of rain on the track, it's going to be a little bit shiny. It's going to look quite skiddy as well.
Well, they do what they call spritzing on the ice. They spray it with a fine mist of water, much like a Zamboni does on an ice skating rink or on a hockey rink. You put a film of water down, that freezes, and it kind of evens out some of the imperfections. But what it does do on the first slide of the day is it means it's really glassy.
It does, and on a track like this, with weather conditions changing all the time, it means that the first slide is often going to get the best ice and the fastest ice. And what you see now is the track's probably slowing down a bit. It's probably starting to frost up in the corners especially. And so that's going to mean that the athletes coming at the end of the field are going to have a slightly slower track than the athletes that are starting first.
Yeah, especially if you venture onto a little bit of ice that nobody has used very much, it will be frosty, and like the inside of your deep freeze, it'll stick.
Yeah, that's right, and here she's coming out of 14, and you can actually see some of the lines that the sliders have been making on the track as they slide down.
We saw how much her big skid there made a mark in the ice, and of course if it's cutting the ice, like your ice skates when you're skating, it is slowing you down.
Yeah,
nevertheless, 12th place, that's a good run for her.
It is, that is a good run, and it wasn't a great run either, so she can definitely improve in the second heat.
Well, next up, another girl returning to World Cup action. She didn't go to North America. Quite a lot of athletes spent their pre-Christmas home in Europe, sliding and competing, and Lelda Prejelena of Latvia did as well. 21-year-old from Sigulda.
I've seen Lelda sliding in training this week, and she's looked really good on the track.
5.72, that's not a bad start. Only 900s in front of our leader, Tina Hermann.
Very nice and smooth there between 2 and 3. Decent line out of 4, carrying that speed.
12th spot at the moment.
Nice line from 9 into Kreisel. He's been very good in Kreisel this week. Just letting the sled run just enough there.
Speed not the greatest going in, but she's got good pace on the exit and controls it very nicely. Ninth place. She's climbing slowly back up the order. And across the line in 10th, a 60.57 slide. Of course, she trains with the Ducours brother, coached by Dennis Ducours, sled built by Dennis Ducours, the same as them. So if there's anywhere you can go and learn, she's in the right place.
Absolutely. They've got a fantastic system going on there with the family and the track in Sigulda, and Lauda seems to be benefiting out of that. She seems to be getting better year after year, and making some good gains.
Third season at World Cup level, only her fourth season of sliding.
Yeah, this is a nice line round Kreisel. You can see she's not doing too much, but the sled is still waving a little bit, which you want. You don't want to have a perfectly flat line, and you don't want to be hitting the ceiling. Something in between.
So there she is, and she currently lies in 10th position. Lauda Bridgelena, Tina Hermann of Germany is our race leader. Next up, another making her seasonal World Cup debut. Maria Oliver stayed in Europe.
Go!
So she didn't go to North America. Quite a powerhouse athlete, fourth place in the Olympic Games. So she will definitely be looking to try and improve on that in the run-up to Pyeongchang 2018.
Yeah, her start place in this race really isn't reflective of what a good slider she is. And that's because she's missed the first 2 World Cups, so she's starting lower down the field. And so it's going to be interesting to see how she drives through the field and what sort of place she finishes after this first run.
3300s in front at the start, 3300s in front at the second clock. How much is she going to find that the track is slower when she's on it, because she's one of the later starters?
The track crew here in Altenberg is very good, but the weather conditions aren't always so conducive, so the track can actually slow down about a second.
Wow.
I don't think it's going to slow down that much today. The weather conditions aren't that bad.
Great speed at the bottom. She's stilling with a chance of leading the first heat at the line, 600s behind. So it's Tina Hermann by 200s from Lizzie Arnold, by 600s from Maria Oliver. Nobody else within a quarter of a second of the lead. And as she sees the time at the bottom, the coaches will tell her how close she is. Now, with good ice at the end of the race, or equal ice to her rivals, she's got a chance to win here.
Absolutely. This is going to be fascinating in the second heat.
Look at the smiles. Wow, she could really be coming of age here today.
You see her just coming out of the start groove. It's going a little bit straighter for her, so maybe the constant sleds coming out of that groove are improving it a little bit.
Or she was just working hard to make sure it came out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, we've seen the youngest in the field at 19 years old. Now we have the other extreme. Eiko Nakayama of Japan. I felt certain would retire after Sochi. At 44 years old, she is showing no signs yet of being able to get rid of the addiction that is skeleton racing.
I got an email from Marco during the summer and she said, Ben, I just can't give this up, I have to carry on. And sure enough, here she is again.
Well, Katsuhiro Koshi, the Japanese coach, was very similar, wasn't he? He just couldn't get enough of it. But unfortunately, on a 6:02 start, she is now always going to be feeling that pressure.
Yeah, that's not a fast start, especially when you have athletes that are starting about half a second faster than you.
And we bandy times around here. Half a second is a tiny amount of time, isn't it? And that's how minuscule the differences are at this level of extreme sport.
Yeah, it isn't a great amount when you're talking about little things, but in the world of skeleton, half a second is a huge amount. And that's half a second that she's going to be behind and half a second that she has to somehow gain on the track.
Well, she was 20th at the start. She is the 20th athlete, still in 20th place, but she had good speed through the Kreisel.
Just on 14 there a little bit too long and sort of hit the end of the corner somehow there.
Over 2 seconds behind now before she gets to the line. It's going to be a struggle to make the cut. And I think maybe that's where she's going to end up, you know, if she stops making the cut through the rest of the season more often than not, and that's a possibility as the fields get bigger in Europe, maybe that's the stage where she's going to go, do you know what? One heat, I'm not doing myself too many favors.
I don't know, I think just Aiko loves sliding. Like it's a unique thing to be on the, you can see her in corner 14 there, just on the corner too long and just the corner ends and she sort of hits the short wall there. But I think Aiko just loves sliding and loves being on the circuit. And
again, you look at the grin, that's not a grin of somebody who's walking away from this sport anytime soon.
No.
So, 20 sliders down safely, 2 to come, but it's either go fast or go home now. You must bump somebody else to get into the race. On the bubble is Eiko Nakayama of Japan, and ready to try and push her way in is Yelena Nikitina of Russia. Now, she shouldn't be in the top 20, she should be in the top 3.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And she's got a really fast start.
5:44, 100th off the start record.
The Olympic bronze medalist knows this track. Nice line around 4. I'm going to call it now top 3 at the bottom.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. She leads by 43 hundredths. Good straight down to the Kreisel, just wriggling a little to get the line she needs, and the speed is excellent.
Yeah, quite nice steering around Kreisel, letting it rise a little bit and not steering too much.
Only 900th now.
She's lost a little bit of time through that middle section.
900s up to 900s back, 109.8. We've seen 112 at the bottom, unbelievable speed, but Jelena Nikitina, 7th place. Okay, we missed our call there.
Absolutely.
Nikitina, or Nikitina. I'm sorry, trying to get my Russian a little better, so those of you who are native Russian speakers, try to cringe a little less if you could. 59.73, 7th place for Jelena Nikitina, but a big, big starter.
Just skidding here a little bit on the straight, which isn't ideal. And then having to correct it as she goes into Kreisel. You really want to be smooth and relaxed on the straights, just be able to let the sled run, and she's just having to work a little bit hard there, so it's going to cost her some time and some speed.
She's so young, so new to the circuit, and she's still not really tapped into her potential. Now then.
And already an Olympic bronze medalist.
And already an Olympic bronze medalist. Maria Mazalou of Romania is our 22nd slider. Eko Nakayama is bumped out of the race. On the bubble now is our World Cup points leader, Elizabeth Vace. So it's Romania or Canada's World Cup leader who will be in 20th place and in the race. Another Willi Schneider-built sled. 5:68 getaway. And against Vace started 5:59. She's already a 10th behind. Well, Maria Mazalou shown in the green at the start because our race leader Tina Hermann is such a leisurely starter, let's say, rather than slow, because none of these girls are actually slow. But Mazalou now behind. Drops to 20th place at the moment. She needs a perfect run from the Kreisel down to be in the race.
Oh, and hard exit there on the end of Kreisel. That's not going to help her. Not a great speed.
Losing more time, but at the next clock, will she still be in the top 20? No, she's outside. Elizabeth Vace will be in heat 2, it seems. Richard Bromley watching in the UK, and all the Vace family and friends back home can breathe a sigh of relief. Elizabeth Vace, the World Cup leader, will be first off in the second heat instead of the first heat, as she has been in the 2 previous World Cup races, as Maria Mazalou of Romania comes up short. 21st place, Eko Nakayama of Japan in 22nd. They will be joining the fans trackside to watch the second heat.
Yeah, Maria skidding the sled there in Kreisel, and that just sort of sends the sled shooting down and then shooting up on the exit, and then she flops off the end. It's really not that comfortable to do that.
You see, with a little lack of speed, she's having to carry the sled a lot further up towards the finish. So there'll be a 30-minute break. I was going to say time for a Glühwein, but probably not at that rate. Well, who knows. So our top 3. Maria Oliver of Russia, Lizzie Arnold, the Olympic champion, and Tina Hermann of Germany with a blinding first run, but with only 600ths of a second, Ben, any of those 3 could easily win it.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating second heat. It's really tight at the top. There's been some good sliding, it's an interesting track. Anything can happen on this track. There's some really demanding corners, so it's going to make the sliding and the race for the top 3 really interesting.
Last time a German woman did not win a World Cup race here was 2006. 8 long years, 2 full Olympic cycles. Tina Hermann has to defend that German honour. Sophia Griebel, too far out of touch, surely, to take the gold. And Marina Giardoni from 5th position, not likely to replicate Maya Pedersen's victory in 2006. Ahead of, this is how long ago it was, ahead of Diana Sartor and Melissa Hollingsworth of Canada. So Diana Sartor has been retired pretty much since 2006. And there are the two athletes that will not get a second heat. There's the Ice Meister. You saw the guy who's in charge of the ice, the refrigeration and everything else here at Altenberg, keeping this track in prime condition. So that's it for the first of our two heats here in Altenberg in Germany. And the second gets underway at 10:30 local time. That's 09:30 Greenwich Mean Time. Join Ben Sanford and me, Martin Haven, for the action in Heat 2 to see if Germany can keep their record alive in Altenberg.
So, wir fangen die Hände hoch. Für den Blickplatz alle zusammen. Herzlich willkommen zum Tag der Schulen, herzlich willkommen zum großen Weltcup-Wochenende. Für alle Bob- und Skeleton-Fans. So, das war die Frage, geht's euch gut? Gute Laune soweit? Dann probieren wir jetzt mal eine Oberwelle. Mal sehen, ob wir das schon hinkriegt, aber soweit schon gefestigt sein. Achtung, wir probieren es mal hier oben auf der Brücke, geht das Ganze los. Auf der linken Seite. Achtung, und. Es geht hier über den Rand bis zum drüber. Für die Neuankömmlinge jetzt, die wir einfach mal begrüßen. Riesengroßen Applaus. Die Masken raus, alles was geht. So laut wie möglich. Und damit wir die Party so richtig beginnen können, eine halbe Stunde haben wir jetzt Zeit. Ab und zu gibt es auch mal einen Einspieler, einen Film, wo uns das eine oder andere über Bob und Skeleton erklärt wird. Machen wir es einfach so. Jetzt mal alle die Hände rechts und links hoch in die Höhe und in die Feier. Wir wollen was sehen, dass wir klatschen auch richtig stark. Die Hände alle mal hoch. Dass wir so klatschen haben. Achtung und jetzt. Hey, hey, hey. Es geht nicht so oben auf die Länge. Halt die Klasse, Hände hoch. Ich will das noch viel Auto hören. Und man hat ein paar Zufall. 1060.